So the internet basically stopped Thursday afternoon when, after literally years of tidbits surrounding the Illumination Mario movie, from the initial rumblings that they and Nintendo were in talks, to saying the script and crew were coming together, to a year ago when the main cast list also broke the internet, to a ton of rumors and supposed leaks on social media, to finally getting something concrete and visual only half a year out from the release date. And with my lifelong love of this series leading to an intense curiosity about this movie, and up till now literally having no idea what to expect from the story or the art style or just theatrical content, and only having seen 3 movies from the studio making it, you can bet that I was more than ready to see this thing so I could even decide if it was something that looks up my alley to begin with. And thankfully, from what we've seen, it looks pretty cool. Having said that, let's go through this trailer and both note what concrete stuff there is to take, and what stuff we can now start to wonder about based on other reveals. Full disclosure, I'm going to stick to static screenshots for the most part, because my live stream reacting to the direct got copyright claimed, even with my avatar and voice over it. So we open on this gorgeous wide landscape of some sort of kingdom-looking structure, with a lot of domes and white lighting, and even a sort of aurora borealis effect going on in the sky. I was legit looking at this and wondering if this is how the Mushroom Kingdom's movie version will look from a distance. Like, yeah, that previous poster image showed more grassy and pipe-filled areas, but I thought maybe from far away at night they were going for a different look. I should have taken the hint when the first thing that happens is lava dropping from up off camera and sinking into the icy ground, but my inner nerd was too busy taking the obvious hint that Bowser was approaching. And sure enough, these little molten globs soon gave way to just jet streams of lava and fire pouring down. I thought for sure we were going to get the classic airships, but this version's stepping things up a notch, and Bowser's got his own whole mobile island with his face carved into the front. Those round spike anchors actually gave me some Paper Mario flashbacks. And then there are these big open shots of it knocking over towers, causing a big dust cloud as it lowers. It was honestly giving me like Lord of the Rings vibes that, while neat, I was immediately like, okay, they're giving us a sense of scale, but this is a Mario movie. It's not going to stay grim, dark, or intimidating. And sure enough, the next shot is of actual characters. We see a whole army of Koopa Troopas, and while their body designs are faithful, I noted they've been given some more like actual equipment to take on more soldier-like appearances. They're carrying spears, some of them have knee pads, and they all have these Hammer Brothers-like helmets. Now this is neat to give a slightly different take on an iconic baddie, and I'll note we haven't even seen Goombas yet, but it was smart of them to not mess with the base design much, since that made the addition of these accessories easier to swallow. There's also a sign that they won't all be copy-pasted clones of each other either, as we have one with an eye patch and no helmet standing firm while another quakes in his shell over being intimidated by Bowser. The first named character we see is actually Kamik, who I'm guessing will be like the right-hand man or some sort of higher-up to Bowser, given that we see how powerful his magic is in that moment, and how he's the one to formally announce Bowser's presence. Honestly, he gives me Ebony Maw vibes. I also want to give huge props to his voice actor, Kevin Michael Richardson. Even if you don't know his name, if you've watched cartoons the last 20 years, you have absolutely heard him. And though we only have one line to go off in this trailer for Kamik, wow, is he just disappearing into this voice. Like, if you didn't give me a name, Richardson would never be one of my guesses. I'm so used to him incorporating that trademark smooth bass, this big sounding voice into his performances. But Kamik here sounds higher pitched, nasally, a little bit warbly. Like, he's adjusting how he sounds a lot here, and what we get fits the design. In terms of tweaks, Kamik looks a little skinnier from the front compared to in-game Magic Koopas, and he either had a hunched back or he's now rocking a traditional Koopa shell underneath his robe. I think I also saw the trademark colored shape outlines in his wand when he first appears, but it was hard to make out for sure. I'll need to keep my eye on it on the big screen. So Bowser steps out from this fiery entrance, and first I was marveling at the lighting and environmental CG work here. One of the things that had me a little worried before, as far as the spectacle side of this movie goes, is that Illumination, while they have good character designs, animations, and environments in their previous work, they never seem to place much of an emphasis on ambient or dramatic lighting. You typically saw plain daytime lights and shadows in their shots, with the more striking stuff only used sparingly. I don't know if they hiked up their budget for this movie, decided to do things differently for it, maybe both, but the whole thing just looks gorgeous. Now, the other thing, everyone was wondering how much Illumination was going to redesign the Mario characters, given that, like many studios, they've developed a sort of uniform in-house style. And maybe they took this away from the initial Sonic design mess, or maybe Nintendo insisted on staying faithful, because what we're seeing for the lead characters is more about doing some small tweaks to the regular game designs, rather than some radical changes or something from scratch. And Bowser is a prime example of that. Like, honestly, he looks virtually identical to his game design, other than utilizing the movie budget to just add more detail. Like, he's got more visible scales on his skin, and his red hair is more flowing in the wind. So he storms out, and we get our first taste of Jack Black's performance. Now, something surprising but welcome to me that I'm going to bring up for all 3 celebrity voices we hear full sentences from is that I'd honestly assumed all these new celebrity voices for the Mario characters were going to generally do their normal speaking voices we're all used to from other stuff. But the moment Bowser yelled to open the gates, I was like, okay, Jack Black is doing something here. It's lower, it's more angry sounding than his usual usual shtick. And if we're going to get an alternate take on Bowser, this looks to be a good one to go with. Also, gotta give props to the character animators. If you pay attention to the shots of Bowser talking, I've never seen him so expressive and alive. His eyebrows are arching, his jaw is opening wider than usual. Like, there's a real liveliness and sense of flexibility coming from him here. So the gates open and we get both an explanation for why this kingdom looks different and a callback to Mario 64 that I wasn't expecting. This is a kingdom of those round blue penguins, complete with a crowned king in typical Mario fashion. So they bravely rush out and attack Bowser, but since these are penguins we're talking about, they just throw snowballs and ice cubes. Those do nothing to Bowser, and I think they knock a single Koopa over on his troops. But the king is still determined and has this great regal voice asking Bowser if he gives up. I honestly thought when I heard it that it was Travis Willingham, but Carrie Payton, who's on Walking Dead and has voiced Cyborg and a ton of DC stuff, he confirmed that it's him on Twitter. Bowser just laughs and says no. They definitely get across how confident he is here with both Black's voice and the expressions, and Kamik lets loose with a spell that basically throws every penguin across the battlefield all willy-nilly. We see a little bit of the Koopa Troopas cornering them at spear point, so I'm guessing Bowser's either going to take them prisoner or at least force them to stand aside while he goes in for the prize. Then there's a great visual of Bowser using his fire breath, which looks super powerful on long range here. That wide shot, it honestly gave me like Godzilla vibes, and at first I'm like, is he just trying to destroy and capture kingdoms here? Like, what is he doing this for? And then it fades to him towering over a star and going, "I finally found it!" Meaning the penguins must have been protecting this star inside as some sort of ancient treasure or power source. So this immediately makes me think that Bowser's main goal in this movie, well, it's not going to solely be kidnapping Peach due to that one-sided obsession he has with her. I mean, we don't even see Peach in this trailer or know her actual role in the movie yet. Maybe the kidnapping will be a smaller part of a bigger plan for Bowser, or maybe they'll just leave it out entirely to avoid like film criticisms of the damsel in distress trope. I don't know. What I'm definitely guessing here is that Bowser's going to be doing something similar to Robotnik and Knuckles in the second Sonic movie, where that had them traveling the world for clues, eventually leading to the Master Emerald so Robotnik could become all powerful. I'm guessing there are several more stars stashed away in this movie's world, and Bowser wants to get his hands on all of them and become the strongest force around. And then maybe take over the world, or just throw his weight around like the blowhard he typically is, who knows. But I'm personally betting that by the end he'll get his hands on them all and buff himself up and become like kaiju size like some games, or, and this is just a pipe dream, turn into Giga Bowser for a great final battle with Mario. So we then transition to Mario himself getting blasted out of a warp pipe and landing in the Mushroom Kingdom. First off, I gotta address the visuals again, because this looks to be a unique take on your standard Mario world, but still drawing clear inspiration from the games. The big mushrooms look more realistic and varied in shape, and instead of just blocky floating platforms scattered around, you can see full-on floating islands in the sky, complete with the visual trope I love of waterfalls pouring off of them. There are birds and butterflies fluttering around. I think you can see cheeps in the river. It looks like a nice place. I also want to touch on Mario's redesign, because the general online consensus I'm getting from it is people saying they'll probably get used to it over time. But maybe I'm in the minority, but I'm in the camp of really liking it. It definitely feels like they didn't want to make him a carbon copy of the game design, but it also feels that they looked at the whole situation with Sonic's original movie design and took to heart that they couldn't stray that far from what people know and love. So a lot of the changes are more subtle than drastic, and a lot of it's in the clothes. Like his shirt has a proper collar now, the overalls have a front pocket, the wrists on the gloves have gaps in them. If I had to guess, this is to better show how he presumably starts as a regular blue-collar worker, though whether he'll be doing plumbing, carpentry, wrecking crew, or something else entirely, who can say. I'm hoping for plumbing, both because it's what I'm used to, and maybe they can tie it into the Mushroom Kingdom's obvious pipe motif. Also, body-wise, the proportions have been tweaked a bit, most notably with smaller eyes and more realistic teeth, but I honestly find it an appealing design and one that's still immediately recognizable as Mario. So the thing that opens up the most speculation for this trailer, for me at least, is that Mario isn't familiar with this world at all. He looks around in awe, and his first line is, "What is this place?" So even though the more modern era of Mario games seems to have abandoned the premise of him and Luigi originating from Brooklyn and isekai warping to another world, and more going the route of, nah, they're born and raised here, this movie looks like it's sticking with that original idea. It's kind of funny that this means all three Mario movies kept this setup, though I guess the live-action one had that dirt wall portal rather than a pipe. I'm just nitpicking now. So what this has me wondering is, what kind of place exactly are this version of Mario and Luigi coming from? It'd be easy to have them come from Brooklyn or Earth, albeit a more cartoony version to go along with their designs, but my money's on their new place of origin being New Donk City. It's one of the more recognizable locations from the past decade or so of Mario games. If that is the case, though, I'm betting they'll revamp the pedestrians to be more cartoony so Mario doesn't stand out of place among them. That would just be distracting in a movie. On a related note, it's worth mentioning that while we saw several of the confirmed characters, not only was there no sign of Peach in this trailer, though her design has been leaked if you want to go search for it online. I'm not going to spoil it in this video. I'll just say that much like Mario, there's some tweaks, but it's overall very faithful. So not only was there no Peach, but there's no Spike, who's been confirmed, and no Donkey Kong or Cranky Kong. We still have no idea about, like, just what role the Kongs play in this. And the one thing we do know about Spike is due to his voice actor spilling some beans on an interview last year, and that's that he's Mario and Luigi's boss, which makes me think he's mainly going to appear during the opening portion, wherever the brothers originate from, and there's probably going to be some initial scenes showing them living a more ordinary life and establishing their personalities, which actually, Chris Pratt connection, that kind of reminds me of Lego Movie. As we get to the closing moments, Mario gets jump scared by Toad, and first off, Keegan-Michael Key's voice, as it sounds in this, not what I was expecting. That guy has a recognizably deep and strong-sounding voice. I was actually just watching a clip of him in that Pinocchio remake. Not the whole thing, I heard it's bad. But I was wondering if he was going to go for a similarly bombastic take on Toad, or something different, and it's something different. They're kind of like chipmunking his voice to actually sound closer to the games. You can even hear some of that trademark Toad rasp when he yells. Toad is another case of being nearly identical to the game's design-wise, though I still need to get used to him having teeth. I'm also curious what exactly his role is in this world, because with that knapsack and walking stick, he doesn't give off the vibe that he spends time in the castle with Peach. I'd actually assume he's more of a traveler or explorer like Captain Toad, and maybe that's what they're going for with this take on the character. So before the actual logo, we get a wide landscape shot with Peach's castle in the distance, and we get a single clear line that serves as our first real take on that much speculated Chris Pratt Mario voice. And first thing I'm going to say, I'm scratching my head at people who say it's his normal voice, because he's definitely doing some sort of higher pitch with an accent, but it's not Italian like the games, and it doesn't really sound New Yorkish like the old cartoons or Bob Hoskins. If anything, it kind of sounds like he's from Boston. If that's what they're doing, that's not what I expected, and really, I need to hear some more of it before I can gauge if it was the right call. And finally, as I had my fingers crossed for it, after the logo, we do get one more brief tease of someone else in the final seconds, and that's our first look at Luigi, who looks good from what I can tell, similar redesigned treatment as Mario, and he's running from a pack of dry bones in a spooky nighttime forest and seeking shelter in some sort of castle. This also looks great visually and kind of feels like as much of a nod to Luigi's Mansion as you can get without actual ghosts. Side note, if this movie is successful enough to launch sequels and spin-offs like they're hoping, my money's on Luigi's Mansion being the most obvious idea besides a dedicated Donkey Kong movie. Unfortunately, this bit doesn't really give us an idea of what to expect from Charlie Day as Luigi. I'm assuming he's also going to have whatever accent Pratt's going for, but here he just yells and grunts and it just sounds like Charlie from It's Always Sunny panicking, so again, I definitely need to hear more from him before I can give a real opinion. But yeah, that was at long last a first real look at the Super Mario Brothers movie. No more calling it Untitled Mario Film. I'm also echoing the complaint that the Super and the logo should have had the colorful game font. As it is, I just keep going the Super movie in my head instinctively. My opinions could easily shift one way or the other on this movie as a whole as the full trailer and more clips and details gradually come out, but going by this teaser, I'm not going to lie, I have more confidence than before that this is going to turn out pretty good. There isn't anything I'm looking at as a bad decision or not feeling true to the vibe of the games other than this very different voice cast, but we've at least known about them for the past year, and I'll probably get more used to them while I'm watching the full movie in April. Overall for me, the hype is real. Hell, it's what inspired me to do this sort of analysis video that I don't normally do. I wanted to get my feelings out. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this approach, and if you do, maybe I'll do more for this movie over time, as well as stuff for other games and movies in the same vein that I'm excited for. Till next time.